Another week, another absolute burial on main event. Another talented wrestler thrown into the forgotten corner of WWE programming where dreams go to die. And this time, it's Apollo Crews. Yes, Apollo Crews, a former Intercontinental Champion, a man who once stood toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns, now relegated to the show that most fans don't even know still exists. But here's what really burns me up, what really gets under my skin about this whole situation. Apollo Crews vs Tonga Loa on the 8th of January 2025 episode of Main Event wasn't just another throwaway match. It was a microcosm of everything wrong with how WWE treats certain talent. And I'm done staying quiet about it. Let me ask you something right now, before we go any further into this breakdown. When was the last time you saw Apollo Crews on Raw or SmackDown in a meaningful storyline? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know if my memory is failing me or if this man has been completely forgotten by creative. Now, Tonga Loa, part of the Bloodline saga, riding the coattails of one of the biggest storylines in modern wrestling history, is out here on Main Event 2. The Bloodline, a faction that's been the centerpiece of WWE programming for years, and they've got one of their members working Main Event. Does that make sense to anyone? Someone explain it to me in the comments because I'm genuinely confused about the logic here. Let's talk about what actually went down in this match because despite the circumstances, despite being on a show that most of the WWE universe has completely forgotten about, these two warriors went out there and delivered. And that's what makes this whole situation even more frustrating. The match started with Tonga Loa using his size and power advantage, absolutely manhandling Crews in the early going. We're talking about a significant weight difference here, and Loa made sure everyone watching knew it. He backed Apollo into the corner, delivered some brutal shoulder thrusts that looked absolutely devastating. The sound of those impacts echoing through the empty-sounding arena because let's be real, Main Event doesn't exactly get the premium venue treatment. It was hard-hitting stuff. But here's where Apollo Crews reminded everyone why he should be on your television screen every single week: his athleticism. The man is a freak athlete. When Loa went for a clothesline, Crews ducked under with lightning speed, hit the ropes, and came back with a beautiful dropkick that sent the bigger man stumbling backward. The elevation on that dropkick, the precision, the impact. This is why Apollo Crews should be in the mid-card title picture at minimum. Quick question for you, who do you think is the most athletically gifted wrestler currently being wasted by WWE? Drop your answer below and let's see if we're all thinking the same names. The middle portion of this match was where things really picked up. Tonga Loa cut off Crews' momentum with a well-timed knee to the gut as Apollo came off the ropes. Sometimes it's the simple things that work best in wrestling, and that knee lift was perfectly executed. Loa then transitioned into a methodical, ground-based attack. He was working over Apollo's back and midsection, clearly setting up for something bigger later in the match. Here's what I appreciated about Loa's performance: he worked like a professional. Despite being on Main Event, despite this match probably meaning nothing in the grand scheme of WWE's current storytelling, he didn't phone it in. He applied a bear hug that looked genuinely painful, wrenching Apollo's body, squeezing the air out of his lungs. You could see Crews' face contorting in pain, selling every second of that hold like his career depended on it. Because maybe it does. Maybe that's the sad reality of where Apollo Crews finds himself in 2025. Maybe every Main Event match is an audition, a desperate plea to someone backstage saying, "Remember me? Remember what I can do?" Crews fought out of the bear hug with elbows to Loa's head, and this is where his striking ability really shone through. Apollo has underrated striking skills. His elbows are stiff, his kicks have snapped to them. He rocked Tonga Loa with a series of strikes before hitting the ropes and connecting with a beautiful flying clothesline. The height he got on that move, the rotation, it was picture perfect. What followed was a hope spot for Crews, and the crowd, yes, there were actually fans there, though you could probably count them on your fingers, started getting behind him. He hit a standing moonsault that was absolutely gorgeous. The form, the rotation, the landing, textbook execution. He hooked the leg for a pin attempt and got a 2 count. Let me pause here and ask you this: what's the best moonsault you've ever seen in wrestling? Apollo's standing moonsault is genuinely up there with some of the best, but nobody talks about it. Let me know your favorite moonsault in the comments. The match continued with both men exchanging control. Tonga Loa showed some impressive agility for a man his size, catching Crews mid-air during a crossbody attempt and transitioning it into a slam. The impact was nasty, and you could hear it throughout the building. This is the kind of stuff that would get massive reactions on Raw or SmackDown, but here on Main Event, it's like a tree falling in a forest with nobody around to hear it. Apollo kicked out at 2.5, showing that fighting spirit that made people believe in him during his runs with the United States Championship and Intercontinental Championship. Remember those runs? Remember when Apollo Crews actually mattered in WWE's pecking order? It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? The final sequence of the match is where both competitors really turned it up. Crews started building momentum, hitting a series of strikes culminating in an enzui-giri that staggered Lowe. He then attempted to go for his finisher, but here's where the match got really interesting from a storytelling perspective. Tonga Lowe, showing veteran instinct, rolled out of the ring to create separation. This is psychology 101 in wrestling. When you're in trouble, take a powder, regroup, make your opponent come to you. But Apollo Crews wasn't having it. He hit a suicide dive through the ropes that connected flush with Lowe, sending both men crashing into the barricade. And here's my question for all of you: why isn't this Apollo Crews on SmackDown every week? Why isn't this high-flying, hard-hitting, fearless competitor being showcased on WWE's main programming? Someone make it make sense in the comments because I'm lost. Back in the ring, both men were showing the effects of the war they were having. And make no mistake, this was a war, even if it was happening in front of a handful of people on a show most fans will never watch. Crews went to the top rope, clearly looking for something high-risk. The crowd, all 12 of them, were on their feet, but Tonga Lowe recovered, met Crews on the top rope, and what happened next was a brutal superplex that shook the entire ring. Both men crashed down hard, and there was a moment where neither could capitalize. This is the kind of drama that wrestling is built on, that moment where both competitors have given everything and it's about who can dig deeper, who wants it more. Quick trivia for the comments: what's the most devastating superplex you've ever witnessed? Tag the match if you remember it. Tonga Lowe was first to his feet, pulling Crews up for what looked like it might be the end. He hoisted Apollo up for his finisher, but Crews fought out of it, landed behind Lowe, and immediately went for a German suplex. The bridge was perfect, referee counted 1, 2, and Lowe kicked out just before 3. The near falls were getting closer, the tension was building, and even though this was Main Event, even though this match might get 5,000 views on YouTube if it's lucky, both men were working like they were main eventing WrestleMania. That's what professional wrestling is supposed to be about. In the closing moments, after several more exchanges, after both men had thrown everything in their arsenal at each other, it was Tonga Lowe who managed to hit his finishing maneuver. He planted Apollo Crews in the center of the ring, hooked both legs, and got the 3 count. Tonga Lowe wins. The Bloodline affiliate gets the victory on Main Event. Apollo Crews takes another loss on a show nobody watches. And here's what infuriates me most about this entire situation: both of these men deserved better. They deserved a crowd that was packed. They deserved a spot on actual WWE television where their efforts would be seen by millions instead of thousands. They deserved storylines that make people care about the outcome. Instead, we got a fantastic match that will be forgotten by tomorrow, featuring 2 talented performers who WWE has essentially given up on featuring prominently. Tonga Lowe should be with the Bloodline on SmackDown causing chaos. Apollo Crews should be challenging for the Intercontinental Championship or United States Championship, showing the world what he can do when given the opportunity. But this is where we are. This is the reality of WWE's bloated roster in 2025, where talented wrestlers are shuffled off to main event purgatory because there's simply no room for them on television. Or is it that creative has no ideas for them? Or is it that they don't fit whatever vision management has for the product? Final question for all of you, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this: what would you do with Apollo Crews if you were in charge of WWE Creative? How would you get him back on television in a meaningful role? And the same question for Tonga Lowe: should he be with the Bloodline full-time or does he work better on his own? Drop your booking ideas in the comments. Let's see if Wrestling Zone 1 viewers can do better than the people getting paid millions to figure this stuff out. And if this video made you angry, if it made you frustrated about the state of WWE's roster management, hit that share button. Let's get WWE's attention. Let's make them remember that Apollo Crews exists. Because after watching this match, one thing is crystal clear: these wrestlers deserve better. And it's time we demand better for them.